there is something else to listen to than your own mind. But as long as you are going 90 miles an hour in your mind and in your whole life, you won't be able to hear this something else, because neurosis is noisy, right? Neurosis is noisy. It demands that you pay attention to it, and you obey it because you don't know what else to do. One thought says, I must listen to that noisy thought, or that misleading thought, or that shaky thought. Never forget the importance of overcoming the momentum of your whole system. Overcoming the momentum of your whole system. Because as long as the system is rolling along, 90 isn't very fast these days, is it? 500 miles an hour. As long as it's going along 500 miles an hour, that very speed prevents you from hearing anything but the noise of the mechanical motor itself. That is what you will hear. And you will hear clanging, and you will hear the general noises of the machinery. And you won't be able to hear anything but that. If you can begin to watch the machinery and listen to the machinery so that you can say, that is the motor going 500 miles an hour, you have made a good start. Because the very saying, that is the noise of my own mental motor, that very saying of that means you've separated a little bit and beginning to see it as apart from you, which it actually is on a higher level. Down here it isn't. We are one with our own neurosis, as we eventually hope to be one with ourselves way up here. Remember the word momentum, and remember your task to slow it down. All right, we'll start officially, I guess. Once upon a time, there was a class of school children, 20 boys and 20 girls, and they went into the classroom every day in their school. And every day the teacher would stand up and teach them the lessons for the day. So one morning they went into the classroom, and piled on the table at one side of the room was a new stack of books. 40 books, one for every boy and one for every girl. So as they sat down, the teacher instructed one of the students to pass the book around, which he did. And the children looked at the book, and it was titled The Necessary Book. The Necessary Book. And the teacher was very enthusiastic. She said, children, we have one of the newest books that will help you get through life. And we're going to start studying it today, and we're going to study it for a long, long time. And eventually, if you work hard and study this book, you'll graduate, having learned the lessons well. So if you'll all open the book to page 1, I'll show you your first lesson. So all the children eagerly opened the Necessary Book. And there was the first lesson. And it said, it is necessary to worry. And the teacher said, now as you see, the first lesson is that it's necessary to worry. Now I want to explain to you what worry is, how many things it involves. This world is made up of worry, and you're in this world, so obviously being a part of this world, it's necessary for you to worry and find as many things to worry about as possible. Now turn to page 2. We're only going to take one lesson at a time, but I want you to get the general feeling of the book, an introduction to it. So if you turn to page 2, we'll take the next lesson, on the surface at least. So they opened the book, and there it was. It is necessary to be confused. It is necessary to be confused. Teacher said, as you know, you've watched your parents at home, you've watched right around this classroom, out in the playground, you've watched down when you go down to the candy shop, how confused everybody is. So it's obvious that everyone in this world must be confused. So I want you to know that that's the way it is. It's necessary to be confused, so we're going to study that. Now, if you turn to page 3, you'll see the next lesson, which they did, and the next lesson was, it is necessary to be angry. Then page 4, it's necessary to pretend that you're not worried or not confused or not angry. It's necessary to pretend. So, I want you to study these lessons very carefully, because if you learn them thoroughly, you'll go out into this world and you can be very happy in this unhappy world if you'll study your lessons well. So all the children studied hard and they were given assignments. Little Billy was told to go home and worry for 3 hours. Little Mary was told to go home and be angry at her little brother over the pork chop she stole off his plate at dinner time. And so they did all their homework well, and they learned their lessons well, and they turned out to be typical, normal human beings, just like us in this room. Nice, typical, normal human beings. Quote marks, of course. So after many years of learning their lessons well, they came the time for graduation. So the teacher congratulated them and gave them all a little certificate, telling them that they were healthy neurotics. And they all went out into the world taking the necessary book with them. This was one of their rewards, was to have the book for their very own little private possession to take and study for the rest of their lives, which they promised to do, being good students and wanting to obey and please the teacher, because the teacher could be pretty stern. Oh, one boy almost didn't graduate because the teacher caught him being courteous one day. So they all went out into the world and lived what they had learned in class. They went out and the men had fight over the position down at the office, and office politics went on. They were cruel to each other, little office trickery, you know how it is. And the women played their little tricks, and everyone went out and made the world exactly what it is today, right now. But there was one student, we'll call him Eddie. Nice, good old American name, right? Eddie. And Eddie lived with the necessary book for a long time, studying his lessons faithfully, being involved in it, trying to worry as much as he could, trying to be as angry as he could, trying to be bitter as much as he could, till he got tired. Then he'd go to bed, then he'd get up and start again the next morning. But one day, Eddie was sitting out in his front porch, tired and weary over all the strain of life and the competition and the shortage of money and the fighting with people. He was sitting out on his front porch one day, and his eyes just happened to idly glance toward his mailbox, which was out in front. And he thought he saw something sticking out of the mailbox. It was quite unusual because it was long before the regular mailman ever came. So he, out of curiosity, of course, walked out to the box, and sure enough, there was a letter in there. And it was a different color than any letter he'd ever seen, and the printing on it was unusual. Nothing he'd ever seen before. Apparently the message was from a different source he'd ever got a letter from before. So he took it in and slid it open, and it had just one line in it. The message in the letter just had one line. And it said, "Question the necessary book." He did a double take at it, thought about it, said it out loud. Question the necessary book. So he thought about it for a long time and set the letter aside and went on his life pretty much as before. He didn't know what was going on. What an odd note to put in there, in his mailbox. And where did it come from? He didn't know. But as he went through his day of fighting and worrying and acting, pretending that all was well. As he went through his day, this business of the secret message haunted his mind. All right, let's wave at each other, Leland. This business, that's pretty good, I like that. This business of the secret message haunted his mind, so he went over to all his old letters and old bills. And you see, he let his bills go deliberately, unconsciously deliberately, because then he could worry about them more, and that gave him something to do with himself all day long. How can I pay these bills? Even if he had the money, he didn't pay the bills because it gave him something to worry about. And the necessary book said it's necessary to worry. So he finally found the note which said, question the necessary book. And he said, well, just for the fun of it, I'll do that. I'll find out what it means for myself. So he took the lesson of frustration. It is necessary to feel frustrated. He said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to question the necessary book, and for the next hour, I'm not going to feel frustrated over anything. I'm just going to be happy and content, as strange as it would be for me to be happy and content. I'm going to not be frustrated over anything for the next hour. And with a little bit of timidity, he entered into that state, and he was surprised to find that nothing bad happened to him, that he was fine. Instead of an emptiness there was a new state there, but it wasn't the emptiness that he thought would be there by giving up his frustration. So how peculiar. I question the necessity of being frustrated, and the note was right. It's not necessary for me to be frustrated. He clucked his head. Good heavens, what's going on here? Boy, this calls for more investigation. So he turned to the page where it said, is it necessary to be jealous in life? Well, I'll question that. So he questioned it by simply refusing to be jealous over anything. The man who made more money, or the man who was younger, more successfully, he simply refused to be jealous over anything. And he was astonished to find that instead of his life feeling empty and exciting, it felt peaceful in a new way that he couldn't conceive could have happened. In other words, there was a quietness there that he didn't fear. He thought he would fear the quietness of the absence of worry or frustration or whatever. But there was a new state there. There was a new state there that felt good because it felt right. Boy, he started to get excited over this business of questioning the necessary book. So he said, what's going on here? Here I was just one student out of 40 in the classroom. We were all told it was necessary to read the necessary book and to go through life all hot and all confused. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get on the phone and ask Bill to come over, and I'll tell him about this. So he called Bill and said, come on, Bill, I've made a strange discovery. Come talk it over with me. So Bill came over one night, one of his former classmates, and Eddie told him about what he had discovered. And Bill said, look, you're treading on dangerous ground. Don't you know that? Don't you know that they wouldn't have given us the necessary book unless it was necessary and good for us? You better be very careful what you're doing, delving into deep and unknown waters like that. As for me, sorry, Eddie, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm going back and read my necessary book as the Bible that it is for me. So Eddie said, all right, a little disappointed, and without question, there was a little bit of doubt in his mind too. He thought that his friend would join him. So he called Gladys. Hey, Gladys, she works down in the beauty shop. He called Gladys over. Come over, we're going to talk about something I found that is strange. And Gladys, who chews gum and stuff, she looked at him. She looked at him. She wears heavy makeup too, you know that. She looked at Eddie kind of oddly, and she said, "You know, they have men for people like you, and they're called psychiatrists. You had better go find out what's happening to your mind, Eddie. You're not normal. We are normal. You told me about Bill, and Bill is normal, and I am normal. You're abnormal, Eddie, going into these things. Be careful, or they'll put you away." That scared Eddie. Sure it did. He thought that maybe he'd found something, and now he's beginning to doubt what he found. So he called someone else. Who'd he call? He called Walter this time. Walter comes over, and Walter threatens to call the police yet. Calling the police. I'm questioning the Necessary book, and he's going to call the police. Why you call the police? Well, the police live by the Necessary book too, and you're going to be a threat to the police and to the judges and to the lawyers and to the doctors. You're getting to be a pretty dangerous man, Eddie. You better keep your mouth shut if you want to study these things. Lock yourself back in the back room or something. Don't tell anyone about it. Well, I'll tell you, if Eddie was miserable before, he was now doubly miserable, because before he had been happy in his misery. Now he was miserable in his misery because he didn't know which way to go. He knew which way to go in class. All he had to do was pick up the book, and it said, "It is necessary to hate at least 3 people today." So he'd go out and hate 3 people and felt better because he obeyed the rules of society. Now he didn't know whether to hate or not hate. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know who he was supposed to be. He was in a terrible state. But he remembered the message. He remembered the secret message that said, question the Necessary book. He said, I'm going to keep going on this. So he called over more of his classmates, and this one that night, another one the other night, 2 or 3 had come at a time. They all said the same thing. You're a madman. You used to be a nice boy. I remember the time you got a 3-base hit 3 times up at bat on the baseball team. Now you're batty. So he continued to study, and it got to the point where he began to feel something that he knew was inner strength without calling it that. Listen to what I just said. He began to sense an inner strength, but he also sensed that he didn't have to call it that. It went uncalled. It was there. He didn't have to tell anybody about it. And that little bit of strength began to grow and grow and grow. And finally he got to the point where he said, all of society, all my friends, all my associates down at work, everybody is living by the Necessary book, which says it's necessary to be miserable. I'm going to write my own book. I'm going to write the unnecessary book. So sure enough, he got paper and pencil, and he wrote a book in which it says it is unnecessary to worry. It's unnecessary to be frustrated. It's unnecessary to play the social game. Oh, and what a relief. It is unnecessary to be concerned with what anyone thinks about me. Oh my God. And he began to see the value of actually talking to his 39 schoolmates, because when they came in and talked to him, he was hoping, he was praying that they would agree with him and say, hey, pretty good, let's get together and investigate this very strange business. Let's see what it's all about. He wanted them to agree with him. And when they didn't, of course, he was shocked. But now, all by himself, he began to see there was something in him that could write the book a page a day. So one day, he simply decided, writing his own book, he wrote a page. It's unnecessary to be afraid of the future. The next day, it's unnecessary to be concerned when other people stare rudely at me. It's unnecessary to feel nervous if I lose someone, if I lose something. Do you know what happened finally? And this will end the illustration practically. He found out that he was the book itself. When he went out to work the next day, and he went down to the supermarket to shop, and he went to his friend's house and his relative's house, it's not necessary to be concerned. If they ask me how much money I make, and I make $5 a day, and they make $50 a day, I make $5 a day. If you want to know, I make $5 a day. It's unnecessary for me to feel ashamed or to feel like a failure. How marvelous. I don't have to pay attention to people who say it's necessary for me to be this or that. What on earth happened to all 40 of us, 20 boys and 20 girls in that classroom? We swallowed it whole. Of course we did. Teacher didn't know any better. The school principal didn't know any better. He had 5 copies of the book in his own office. The school superintendent didn't know. The president of the Board of Education didn't know. The 10 members of the Board of Education didn't know. And they got all these college degrees they didn't know. One thing he wondered about, but it did not become a problem to him. He wondered who put that message out there to question the necessary book. But he knew one thing. The source of that message was good, true, honest, healthy, decent, and the only source of truth, of goodness that he'd ever found in his life. Let's take a break, 10 minutes. Do come next Friday night if you can. We're going to have a special subject, one which might jolt you a little bit. So please be here Friday. All right, Tom, you're on. This is questions, answers, open discussion. Tom on. Okay. Okay. Please listen to yourself. Ask a question. And you might even ask yourself how you would answer the question that you're giving to someone else. And maybe you wouldn't even want to try. Maybe it would be too confused. Listen to yourself, ask questions. Now, how many are afraid to ask a question? How many are afraid to raise their hand? Yes, please. And make all your questions loud and clear. Go ahead, please.
Well, sometimes when I ask a question, even though I feel it's an honest question, I feel some sort of
I can't hear you. Speak louder.
I feel some sort of a anxiety come on Like I can feel it coming on right now.
Repeat what he said.
He says when he asks a question, frequently he senses anxiety, and he wonders where this comes from. I guess that's the real question.
Comes from you. Where else? Now find out who the you is that is feeling anxious over asking a question. You know, how many times in this class have you heard that you have to enter the haunted house and prove for yourself that the bats and ghosts have only the power that your imagination, your wrongly used memory, your false sense of self creates? I have told you, you have to enter the haunted house and just stay there and let all the bats swoop around your head, let the ghosts glide out of the closet all around you. Hear all those strange sounds. Let anything happens to you that wants to happen in the haunted house. And some of you won't even invite the smallest bat out to look at it by asking a question, no matter how stupid it is. If you ask a stupid question, the best thing that could happen to you is for me to tell you that it's stupid, so that you can see what a slave you are to the smallest incident in the day. Don't you understand? This class is the place to be bold. You can't do it out there. You can start doing it here. Because when you ask a dumb question or make a nervous remark, no one in this room, myself included, is going to laugh at you or really think you're stupid. Because we all know we're all stupid. That's a bit of elementary encouragement for you. But is it enough for you to look? We don't give medals, but you know, I feel like giving one if I see a nervous hand. And then you take, and then if you ask a dumb question, and I say you ask a dumb question, don't do the way you did when you were 5 years old, when Papa bawled you out and Mama bawled you out and the teacher said you were stupid. Don't do the same thing in here that you did there. It's what you did there that keeps you so stiff, so frozen, so sick in here. You say, I'm going to be bold and brave and raise my hand, and you get knocked down. When you go home, you study everything that happened to you. You shook, you know, this is called inviting the bat to swirl around your head, going like that. And you sputter, and you don't say what you intended to say at all, and you're horrified at what you say. And the woman next to you gives you a glance like that. And she's your best friend. You take that home and study the whole incident. Object, self-knowledge of yourself as you actually are. You don't want to see how nervous and nutty you are. That's why you don't take chances. Here, you are encouraged, urged to take chances. If there is one person in this room who will take chances in such a small thing as asking a question, and then just seeing that you have no control, you will now come to the point where you see you have no, you think you do now. You don't have any control. You're suppressing yourself so that you don't see how nervous and mad you are. Have the courage to see what you're really like and do it in this class. Now I've said it, and I know what's going to happen, and so do you. You won't do it. Now, who's responsible for staying in the same state that you're in week after week after week? Murray, please.
I've been observing the critical part of me since you mentioned it some time ago. And I noticed that the criticism is for everything, including Murray. Now, it seems to me that there must be some connection between seeing my own confusion, that is, the contradiction, and the criticism. That is, if I see enough contradiction, will the criticism die away?
Yes, because you will die away. Do you realize that Murray, criticizing Murray, that the criticism and Murray are the same thing, same thought level? So what are you doing? Perpetuating the thought that Murray, for example, you criticize yourself. Murray is stupid. Aren't you glad to be stupid rather than be nobody? Huh? I think, all right, Murray, then Dottie. Go ahead, Murray.
But is the criticism perpetuated by the image? Is the criticism perpetuated by the image?
They're all tied in together. And remember what I said earlier about momentum. You won't understand this as long as the momentum is 500 miles an hour. Slow it down. Dottie.
Is there a difference between questioning the necessity of a negative state and seeing the negative state that you're in?
You start with questioning because your pain has got so bad. The time will come when you see it's not necessary at all. Pain, suffering is necessary only to the survival of Dottie or Murray or Vernon. We're trying to put an end to the three of us. Then is there suffering? Chuck can suffer, or Joan can suffer. But that's the only thing that can suffer. Just a minute, I want to slow down. Let's all slow down. Don't talk back to your own neurosis. You don't have to. Don't have an idiot conversation with yourself. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Richard, raise your hand if I missed you. Sorry. Go ahead, Richard.
Is there a right way or a wrong way to question the rules of society?
Just question them. You don't have to live by them.
All through the meeting, you've been saying...
Pardon?
All through the meeting, you've been saying it's unnecessary to have any false feelings of any kind. But yet, even though this might sound funny, I say it's necessary, yet it's wrong. Could you go into it? I know it's hard, but...
Ask the question again.
Okay. You've been saying it's unnecessary, and it's unnecessary, and
Okay.
it's unnecessary.
Okay.
And yet I get scared to raise my hand, and that's me saying it's necessary.
The only way you're going to find out that it's unnecessary is to challenge it. Challenge it. You don't know how many opportunities you miss in just 24 hours to challenge these so-called necessary states. How can I put it this time? Walk right into it. Walk right into the haunted house. Go ahead, Jim.
As long as a man is in thought, he will never be able to see anything fresh and new.
That is correct. If you're, excuse me.
Okay, now, then, at the stage we're at, all we can do now is to see that we can't look at anything fresh and new.
Well, if you're on a merry-go-round and stay on it for an hour, are you going to see anything fresh on a merry-go-round? You're going to see the same tree, the same bush, right? What is the merry-go-round? Mechanical thought, always going in the same circle. There can't be anything fresh. And what we do is simply take a variety of thought as freshness, don't we? The new vacation spot, the new wife, the new boyfriend, we take that as something fresh. Go ahead, Jim.
Then in your trying to look at something fresh, you're still continuing the same old merry-go-round.
Right. I maintain my false sense of self by repeatedly seeing the same things, doing the same things, thinking the same things, feeling the same things. That is my quote mark security to stay right on the merry-go-round and look at the same old familiar sights. You try to haul a human being off the merry-go-round and he'll fight you. Just as you are fighting tonight. Do you want to change that or something? Just as you're fighting tonight, not even knowing that you're fighting, when truth is doing its best right here tonight to haul all of us off the merry-go-round. Isn't there something in all of us that senses it's wrong to be on that dizzy ride all day long? And you are on it, whether you admit it or not, whether you're conscious of it or not. Do you know where we belong? We belong on solid ground, where we are our own, can become our own direction, any direction. When you're on the merry-go-round clinging tightly to the pole up in front that goes through the horse, you're clinging to that. Are you going to go anywhere, or are you going to be carried to the same places mechanically all day long? That's what's going to happen to you. If you get off the horse, aren't you free of the whole business of round and round? Can't you go over there to that building, over there to that lake? You can go anywhere you want, can't you? You even sin mechanically. You can't even sin originally. That's right. Dorothy.
Whatever it is that we are, do you love us?
Vernon doesn't. Look. Be very careful. We'll see something. I have to keep myself out of this. Vernon could only use Dorothy. I'll give you more about that in a very curious, interesting way on Friday. Al, please.
Do people become what they admire, or do people become what they hate?
Both. Don't you? And why do you admire that or hate that? Because that is what you are already, and like attracts like. If you're nutty, I'll guarantee you have nutty friends. Write down a sentence, please. Weirdos of a feather flock. Weirdos of a feather flock together. Weirdos of a feather flock together. Yes, Pat, please.
When you mention a lot, like attracts like, I think back about some of the people I used to hang around with, and sometimes quite disturbing.
Was that a question or a statement?
Statement.
Oh, fine.
It just makes me think back.
Yes. Okay, fine.
It seems that when I see something clearly for a second, there's no effort involved in it. So I don't quite understand if thought can make any valid effort, since I'm a thought.
All right. Look at the very strange thing we're trying to do here. We're trying to think our way out so hard that we see it's impossible, then we stop trying. You're not making enough effort to see that you can't do what you're trying to do. You've got to make an enormous effort to see that you can't do anything. But you have to be conscious of the process. You have to begin to try to understand what you're doing. And this is familiarly known as coming to the end of yourself. Giving up. Jim Murray.
When you're in a mood, and it's a mood of depression or loneliness, and staying with it, how is there a way to distinguish between like enjoying it or being masochistic and staying with it, on just, or just observing it, or how to differentiate between the two?
All right. When you're in a go ahead, Jim.
You see, like when you take it over, and if you keep going with it or whatever, it seems to increase more.
All right. Let's talk about the solution. When you're in a how do you get depressed? Gloomy, sad, get your own word for it. You're in that state because this is all you can be in your present low level of misunderstanding, right? So when you're in a state of depression, remember, you've got your eyes closed, and this is all there is but that. When you're depressed, you don't know you're depressed. You don't know you're depressed, when you're gloomy. You are the state itself. You are the state. How can you see something that you are? You're the whole thing yourself. What we're trying to do here is to reach that point where not I can break the mechanical flow of depression. I can't do it. I am it. I can't pull myself up in the air by doing that, can I? I am it. All right. What I can do is what I said about 3 minutes ago, is see the futility of trying to rescue myself from gloom. When you're gloomy, you watch how the thought that follows gloom says, sometimes it all depends on many things, but it says, I'm going to do something to get over this depression. So I'll take a drink, I'll turn on television, I'll scream at my children, whatever makes me feel better, I feel exalted, I scream at the children. I'm a big boss, and you better know it, kids. Or the wife, too. We're trying to see that gloom can't conquer gloom because I am the whole business itself. Do you see how this connects with dying to yourself? So the next time you get gloomy, do the fearful but courageous thing of not doing a thing about it. If you do anything about it, you'll still remain on the level of thought which the gloom itself is, which means once you scream at the kids or the television program is over, you're going back to being gloomy again because you've kept yourself on the level by trying to save yourself. When you don't try to save yourself from gloom, you begin to die to it, which means that the mechanical flow of gloom fades away of itself because you're not replacing it constantly. It fades away because it has to. You are not pushing it. You have to understand what I'm saying in order to let this happen. You understand? You don't do it. You have to let it happen. So, what you have to do is just stay gloomy when you're gloomy and make no movement at all, action at all upon it. It thereby will lose its energy. It will slow down from 500 miles an hour to 400 to 300 to 200. To the point where thought, having exhausted itself in a small way, the gloomy thought exhausts itself, and at the split second of the ending of that gloomy thought, and you, having understood everything we've talked about, do not jam it with the next freight car thought. You have put a small space between two thoughts. What is that small space between two thoughts? Something that is way up here. So when you're gloomy, and you first understand that you of your own self can do nothing, that you must simply remain gloomy, now you're going to make it worse. You're going to add apprehension to your gloom. Do you know why? You understand why? Because you, being the only person you know, have said you can no longer save yourself. You have to be gloomy when you're gloomy because you cannot save yourself. Now, apprehension is added to it because if I can't save myself, who can? I'm the only God I know. Right? Be as apprehensive as you wish. I've told you, I give you permission. You be just as gloomy or as apprehensive about anything that you wish. But while trying to understand everything we're talking about. And one thing is to understand you must not enjoy it, but study it. There's quite a different thing when you're gloomy and you're studying it and simply enjoying it, because it maintains you as a gloomy person. And then you're justified in hating the world for persecuting you or so on. Lorraine.
When I recognize that I'm depressed or gloomy, I find if I bring my mind back to where my body is, there's a different feeling and I'm just not gloomy.
That's correct.
Is that the right feeling you're talking about when we drop the unnecessary?
Say that again, Lorraine.
Is that the right feeling that you're talking about when we drop the unnecessary?
Yes, all right. Let's all do it now. Just give yourself the mild shock of changing your physical position, letting your hands go nice and loose and jaws drop, nice and relaxed. All right, now look, we're not going to think at all about anything. We're just going to sit here quietly for about 1 minute and just know that we're here. You don't have to think about anything. Nothing bad will happen to you. Just sit here and just know you're here for a minute. I'll call an end to it in a minute. All right. This kind of silence does not create an opposite. Therefore, it creates neither enemies nor friends. Therefore, you are whole, one with yourself, and the best friend the world ever had, which is love. Leland, you're on.
An observation, then a question. If one reads traditional thinking about religious values, one finds that the usual definition of sin is what is unnecessary. Okay, now it would appear that there is a dramatic connection between a phrase that you frequently use, the draining of energy, so to speak. You mentioned, for example, that most people, the usual course of life is that people are draining each other constantly of energy. Would you connect this subject with the theme that you're now describing, namely what is necessary and unnecessary in life?
The draining of energy? Well, it's obvious that we're here to put an end to the horrible waste of negative thoughts. Go ahead.
I was going to say, perhaps you could describe a little more in detail what that means.
No, I can't. Yes.
Along with what you've said then, I cannot do anything to bring this higher state to me.
You can only see the impossibility of doing anything, except one thing, but it's not even your understanding. You can understand, but even your understanding isn't Gordon's. Once you come above the level of thinking, you cease to exist as Gordon. Then you can be Gordon so the mailman can bring you your mail, right? Go ahead, Jim.
When you're in a state of depression or anger or whatever, what happens to the observer?
It's gone. As long as you're in the state of observing, you're still in thought. But you have to use thought to observe things. Look, we were sitting quietly for a minute ago, weren't we? For a minute ago? We were sitting quietly. I'm not talking about physical observation. Obviously, I'm seeing you out there. What's there to observe? What's there to feel threatened by? What's there to want? What's there to do? Is there any division? When you're observing, you're still in division, are you not? Thought is looking at another thought. That's still you looking at something. When you go, do you observe? You see, in a higher sense, God never observes anything because he's not divided. All right. Phyllis.
Would you say that, Vernon, instead of the word observer, if we use the word the aware one, when we sit quietly like this, there's a state of awareness that sets in.
All right,
It's not
all
an
right,
observer,
all right,
It's just a heightening.
all right. Jim.
Then man feels then, if you lose thought, we think that we lose control.
Right, right. People think these truths are a threat to the command you have of your life. No matter how batty we are, we think we're going to lose command of our life if we accept these truths. I saw hands over here. Alan, Tom.
So what we have to do is get to know our minds so thoroughly that we realize the limitations of
I like that. Now that was good, wasn't it? Tom.
From all that you've just said, would you give an example of what it is to do?
To do, if you are sincerely working on yourself in even a small way here, you are beginning to do. This means you're going against the necessary that society, the false necessities of society. You're going against it, are you not? Even in a small way.
Connecting what Alan said with what Tom said, it seems that we're trying to see or trying to learn, know that we can't do in order so that something else can do.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better. Have no concern over what will happen to you as a result of going deeper and deeper and deeper You will be lied to by your own thoughts that will tell you that there's a danger to you in understanding these things. Your own thoughts will lie to you. Simply see that. When a thought lies to you and throws you into fear, can the fear be right? Is fear ever right? Any person, any of your own thoughts that put you in fear, mark it down is wrong. Now, what's hard about that? Self-accusation is wrong. Who are you accusing? You think you're a failure. You're not a failure. You're not a success. You have identified with the feelings, the thoughts, the experiences of failure and success, and society will lie to you about that. How much unlearning have we got to do, students? We were all congratulated by the high school principal with his 15-minute dynamic speech. We were all lied to. We didn't know it. Our pain is beginning to tell us that we were lied to, and we don't have to continue with the lie. Bob, please.
I read in one of the books that a person is successful when they only want what they need. Now, I'd like for you to discuss that a little bit.
Successful when they, you mean financially and so on?
Well, that was my question. I was wondering if, say, if you're in business and you see an opportunity to gain more, if you should pass the opportunity, or is it just only your desire or greedy desire that is wrong?
No. If you're in business, you be a very efficient businessman, and never mind whether you make $1 million or $5. You be an efficient businessman. That is your whole concern, to be a right person within. And daily efficiency is a part of your inner work. Why do you pay any attention to results or not? Saying, well, if I make $1 million, Christ said a millionaire can't go through a needle's eye or whatever it is. See, you get things all mixed up. You be true inwardly and forget the consequences, whether they amount to $1 million or $5. The reason we get concerned is because we're worried about our identity when I become a millionaire or when I only have $5. Never mind. What's that got to do with anything? What has your money got to do with you as a spiritual person? Now you watch, some of you. You've heard all these facts, and you'll hear a lot more in the next 15 minutes or so. Can't you go home and watch what happens to you when your sister comes over and visits you tomorrow, or that friend comes over, or somebody else comes over, or you go to your house and you fall into a discussion of social values? Can't you begin to see how you're going to go into your big phony personality, and you sit here and nod your head in this class? Don't you see how deeply into the pit we are, that you can agree here but be a different person out there? Because you're afraid to say, no, I don't agree with you, when you say that if we want more money, we ought to go out and strike and cause trouble. You want people to like you, don't you? Just a minute, please. And you don't even know what you're talking about when you unconsciously say, I want to be liked. Dare to lose the world and start with one little thing. Dare to lose your picture of respectability, of poise, by asking a dumb question. That's the only question you can ask anyone. Duffy.
It's exactly what I suffer from all day long as I go through the day of making remarks to people, pretending like all is well, friendly ones, funny ones. And I want to stop this, and yet I suffer tremendously from it. Is that a play I put on for myself because I cannot drop it?
Say that again.
Is this a play I'm putting on for myself?
Oh, yeah.
So I
Well,
actually don't have enough of it yet.
you what?
I do not have enough of it.
No, you're not fed up enough yet, Duffy. Where's Connie? Where's Connie? Raise your hand. You have a terrible strain inside yourself, Connie, when you meet me. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Be more aware of it. Where did I see him? Philip.
I make a dumb comment instead of a dumb question.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
That's the strength of this class, like what Bill King said and what I was thinking before. When I go to Los Angeles to meet my family, or they come up here, what happens in this class begins to grow and adds strength to the conviction of where we're going and what we're doing. That's why this class is so important right now, because we are weak, very weak. And this class builds an impetus and builds a strength so that we can fight the outside influences.
Yes, well said. Larry.
Comment. The false need for acceptance brings the pain of being rejected.
Say that again, please.
The false need for acceptance brings about the pain of
Rejection.
Fear of rejection.
Yes, sure, of course. Why do you want to be accepted by anyone? You tell me why you want to be accepted by anyone.
Because I was taught that it was necessary.
Sally was a little late. Florence, please.
Because you can't do it alone.
Because what?
Because you cannot do it alone.
Go it alone?
Progress alone.
Yes, all right, okay.
Also because I need someone to tell me I'm okay, because I don't believe it.
Yeah, that was good, yes. Fred, please.
Yeah, if somebody else will accept me, then that's sort of me accepting my own wrong parts. And
Yes,
telling myself
yeah,
that they're okay,
yes.
and I'm okay.
If you accept me, then my lie about myself must be the truth, and I feel okay. But I have to keep running around finding enough people who will lie to me.
Jim's question earlier perhaps would suggest a summary of part of the work. He said, what happens to the observing eye when we're fully in a negative state? It appears that the work is a kind of continuum between being, as you say, fully identified, that is, completely jealous or completely afraid, and the next step where we become two, that is, we bring an observing eye in to see what is going on, really. And then this brings us to the point that seeing what we're actually doing to ourselves, that is, becoming conscious of it or aware of it, we finally get to the point that there is no more division, there is no more strife.
Yeah.
The sensing of an agitation is what would arouse the observing eye to, if you want to use this term, a very great alertness and extreme intensity to study what is going on without, as you say, trying to change it.
Okay.
Then the observation is pure and the progress is assured. And finally, we're only one thing, or aware.
Okay. Yes, Tom.
What is a man that has learned to remember himself, and where is he in the work? At what if there are gradations in the work, which I see that there are, if a man has learned to remember himself, where is he in the work?
Well, aren't you all trying to remember yourself here in this room?
Complete remembering.
Huh?
Complete self-remembering.
Well, even self-remembering, as Leland points out, vanishes. Then you'd be a completely whole man. God does not observe himself. He is himself. But let us agree that we have the rest of our life to work on. And let's not think about being on top of the mountain. Lorraine.
I see that I spend all of my life either in the past or in the future. And for those short moments when I can get myself together, they're so short and so uncomfortable that I see my desire to go back to the familiar discomfort, the agony of being asleep, of being mechanical, of going through all these things that I'm doing now. And each little effort that you tell us about to reach for something and be aware that we're doing it helps me to suddenly realize, look, I'm really in pain for this short instant. Then I can do something about it. Most of the time I'm in pain and don't even know it.
Correct. Yes, we're lying to ourselves all day long. The lying, one form of it being simply covering that up with a distraction of the moment. Any negative emotion is a distraction from seeing a previous negative emotion. You will begin to see as you continue to work that different things happen to a person who is trying to shake himself awake than what happened to him before when he was deep in sleep and was content to stay that way. You watch and see how different things will begin to happen to you in small ways at first. And I mean right down in this world we're living in. You watch how people will treat you different, how you will treat them different. You watch, you'll have a different expression on your face. You'll watch how you won't be so hanging on to someone else and them hanging on to you, and both of you resenting, each of you leaning on each other. Begin to see how as you begin to work, which is, you can call it self-awakening, that's just fine, how different things happen to you. And the one different thing is that you don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again. You break the pattern, you break the merry-go-round of mistakes. Chuck.
At work, a man comes up and talks to me a long time, and that's just stealing my energy, I know. He's an older man, so I try to be polite and listen. And then there's times when I'm working on myself and say, I hope he irritates me more. I learned that from one. But I really would like to know how I could politely get him off my back.
That's not wrong. Don't you have a normal brain? Well. Are you afraid that you're being impolite if you tell him that you wish to leave and do other things? Are you afraid to tell him that you want to leave?
Yeah, probably. Well, I've done it to other people, and they get extremely irritated. And I don't.
Now we're on to it, aren't we? And they dislike Chuck.
Yeah, maybe, but sometimes maybe for. I was trying to do another way with this fellow, but it don't work.
Do you resent your own cowardice?
Yeah, extremely.
Okay. Work on that. Watch how you resent your own cowardice. Dauphine, then over there, please.
find it's of great value of watching you very closely. For instance, when you speak to me and then the conversation is over and you politely move away. I have watched it so many times, and I imitate you sometimes in situations, but it's the only way I could start rightly. And when I feel the person has said enough and has taken enough of my time, and I'm not more willing to give their time, it goes very easy. I don't know how to explain it because I have taken it so much just as imitation. But there's a rightness with it where you can remove yourself from a situation without hurting the person by not having
Duffine, you're going on too long. Don't ramble like that, please.
Okay, I'm finished.
Yes.
I had the same problem at work where this guy takes up my energies. And so I just get out a book and just start reading aloud. And he just, if he tries to talk and everything, I just keep reading. I'm sorry, and I just keep reading.
All right. Rudy.
It seems, Vernon, that we're very gullible toward certain people in society. The priest, the preacher, policeman, certain people that we think have power over us. And not only are we gullible in that area, we will be gullible in other areas too. For example, the older man, the boss, and so on. As it is, I guess, until we really get tired in one area, and then by using that in other areas, we won't feel guilty to walk away, let's say, from the older man.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing that helped, and it's not the whole picture, it's part of it, but it's one piece of the jigsaw puzzle. You're living in a world of spiritually sleeping human beings. All right, now that is a fact. It's your relatives, your friends, and how about you? All right. I'm connecting this with your question, Rudy. Sleeping human beings do not have any conscience. They do not have any regard for your time, for your energy, for anything at all that is yours. Because they are lost. They are lost and doing the wrong thing with their life. They will try to, they are compelled to try to live off of you, off of your attention, off of your words, off of your energy, and off of your money, if they can do it. There's a very basic rule, which is this. No human being will ever do for himself that he can get someone else to do for him. Now, if you understand this clearly, when someone comes up and starts to waste your time or tell you his troubles, don't you understand that it's no difference than if a dog came up and started yapping at you? What does a dog do besides yap? Something that's lower than it, talking. Whines at you, something like that, yeah. Comes up. There is no difference at all because that person hasn't evolved above the mechanical level of his own mind, and that dog is equally mechanical. You wouldn't let a dog waste your time by coming up and whining. This sound harsh, this sound cruel, then you've got a lot of phony ideas in your mind about how loving and kindly and patient you are, and you don't see what we're talking about. You don't owe anything to anyone who is trying to steal your life energy away from you. You don't owe 1 ounce of energy, and you're very foolish to give it to them. And you're still doing it in ways you don't know. And a good deal of the lessons in this class have touched on that. Blabbermouthery being a main one. You wear yourself out, and everyone you meet with your blabbermouthery. You can't stop blabbing. And some of you in this room will go home, and in the car on the way home, you'll blab endlessly and won't even know it. That's how asleep you are. We'll take another 5 minutes. Zena, Sally.
Vernon, last Wednesday you gave us a sentence. When truth influences us, it comes as in the form of practical thoughts. Is it only in practical thoughts that we're influenced by truth?
No, practical thoughts are lower level angels, if you want to call it that. There are right thoughts, of course there are. But there's something that is above thoughts, where the observer ceases, by the way. Sally.
What you just said about draining, not permitting other people to drain us, is this not the beginning of a right attitude for us to get our mind thinking properly?
Of course it is.
So that we don't feel guilty over not falling into our old habitual patterns?
All right, color a little further. Well, Chuck, you're bursting. Go ahead.
Yeah, but this guy got me trapped. He got me anywhere I moved. See,
He followed you around even?
Well, I can get away. I'll work on it.
One thing, let's get something strong. You won't see it. You won't be shocked. You're not high enough to get shocked yet. Anyone who tries to steal your energy, time, etc., is still on the level of a murderer. You're not shocked. Pray for the day when you understand enough to begin to get shocked. You're not shocked. Go ahead, Murray, and then Joan.
It's very important for me to see my own blabbermouthery, though, and it starts taking, again, Murray doesn't take care of it. Something else takes care of it when it's seen.
Are you tired of being tired? All right. That knowledge of your weariness over your weariness will begin to slow down the 500-mile-an-hour blabbermouthery. And so you're willing to dare whatever it is, and you don't know what it is. You're willing to dare to let whatever happens to you happen by slowing down and not being the mental blabbermouth or the verbal blabbermouth, to not be either, just to see what happens to you as a result of that. And you'll get real nervous when you do this. But on the other side of the nervousness, if you'll stick with it, is something that's called freedom. Joan.
The same old thing. People may want to drain, or may actually drain me. Where do I do it to another group? One group drains me, where do I do that? The same thing to another group.
All right, okay.
Round robin.
Okay. Amy, please.
I want to clarify two terms before I pose my question. When you say to us, remember yourself when you get in the car,
Yeah.
is that equal in meaning to be conscious as you get in the car?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my question. Can you remember yourself or can we remember ourselves during fast physical movement, or are the two things incompatible?
Of course you can. Try it sometime.
Well, today I tried, and you know what happened? I couldn't move.
Yeah. Well, you practice. You'll be able to think and move at the same time. I'll tell you something interesting. This is a personal experience with me, and it may happen to you, it may not. You have to have your own experiences. But I found something very interesting over the years. Amy's point reminded me of it. Anytime, I'm working on myself all day long. At many, many times when all of a sudden the light came down bright, you understand what I mean, I was in some kind of physical movement at the time. I remember one time I just stepped out the door and I saw something very clearly. Another time I was in bed and I just rolled over on the bed. Bang! As I turned over on the other side. Maybe that'll be your experience, maybe it won't. Leland, Dorothy, then we'll say goodnight.
One of the great virtues of this class is that we tend to cut through the mystique, that is, the special phrases that are supplied in esoteric literature. For example, the term, remember yourself. Now, it seems that there are two different parts to that. One part would be to be aware of what we're doing at the time that we're doing it, to know that we're actually getting in the car, that our feet are on the pavement, that kind of thing. But beyond that, the meaning really is that we discover the self, we remember the self, about which there is nothing unnecessary. That is the self for which negativity is unthinkable. It's just not part of its life. Is this...
I'll take that as a comment, Leland. Dorothy, go ahead.
It's interesting to see oneself when you're blabbing or draining other people, when you become aware that you do it or that I do it, how that I'm resenting myself for wanting something from that person, and that person, however, they may not even be in this class, how they resent my draining them, and the tremendous conflict it puts that I am in and that they are in at the same time when this draining is going on.
All right. Notice in any close human relationship that you have, notice how you alternate between wanting that person near you and wanting him out. Right? Okay, Jim will cap it.
Negative emotions, what is its origin?
What is what?
What is its origin?
Origin in the darkness of the world, which is unevolved. Why do you want to know? It's there. If the house is haunted, I don't care who put the bats there or how the ghost got there. I'm concerned with getting rid of them. Oh, we go on and on. Sally?
It really wouldn't help if I knew where they came from.
This is the way it is. Dorothy?
But Vernon, but if you knew where they came from, couldn't you go back out the way they came?
Chuck?
All right. I want to know where they came from. So I figure they came from my father, my teachers, everybody I was around. So this way...
And where'd they get them? Yeah. Joan? Well, we'll start all over.
They came from Oregon. Maybe we should move to Washington to get rid of them.
Lorraine?
No, I guess...
You missed my point.
Wait a minute, I can see...
Yes.
I can see chaos developing right in the middle of all this calmness. Lorraine, you make it short and sweet. Does that make you nervous?
Just turn me off. It's a great relief not to have to expect other people to be nice. I really see that I've stopped expecting other people to be nice.
All right. Here's your project, all of you, while Tom is still here. When you go into either your home or your room, if you leave here, you will be aware of yourself as you walk into your home or your room. Let's see if you do it tonight. Good night.
You want to get some of that
Sure.